The 1950s were a time of soaring ambition in aviation. Boeing 707 and Douglas's DC-8 were rewriting the rules of air travel, promising to shrink continents and connect cities like never before. But in the shadows of these giants stood an unlikely contender, Convair, a company better known for building Cold War bombers than passenger jets. Determined to carve its name into the jet age, Convair set out to create something extraordinary, an airliner that would leave its rivals in the dust. The result was the Convair 880 and 990, two jets so fast they could outpace even modern fighter planes. But in a world where airlines craved efficiency over speed, Convair's obsession with velocity would prove to be its undoing. Convair's gamble began with a simple premise: what if an airliner could fly faster than anything else in the sky? While Boeing and Douglas focused on range, capacity, and fuel economy, Convair's engineers fixated on raw speed. The 880, named for its target cruising speed of 880 feet per second, roughly 600 miles per hour, was designed to be the Ferrari of the skies. Its sleek, narrow fuselage and four roaring General Electric CJ805 turbojet engines, derived from military designs, made it a technological marvel. On paper, it was everything a jet-age pioneer could want. But Convair had misread the market. Airlines weren't looking for Ferraris, they wanted reliable workhorses. And while Boeing and Douglas courted airlines with flexible designs and financing deals, Convair doubled down on its speed demon pitch, alienating carriers who saw no need to outrun the competition. Literally. At the heart of the 880's design were its General Electric CJ805 turbojet engines, derived from the military's J-79 engines used in fighter jets like the F-104 Starfighter. These engines were capable of propelling the 880 to speeds of 615 miles per hour, nearly 100 miles per hour faster than the Boeing 707. To squeeze every ounce of performance, Convair gave the 880 a narrow, lightweight fuselage and a 35-degree swept-wing design, reducing drag and maximizing aerodynamic efficiency. The 990, an upgraded version, pushed this further with anti-shock bodies, bulges on the wings that delayed drag at near-supersonic speeds. On paper, it was a masterpiece of engineering. But speed came at a cost. The 880's narrow fuselage limited seating to just 110 passengers, compared to the 707's 140. Airlines balked at the math. Fewer seats meant fewer tickets sold per flight, making it harder to turn a profit. The CJ805 engines, while powerful, were fuel-thirsty and notoriously loud, earning the 880 nicknames like the Screaming Turbojet. Passengers complained about ear-splitting noise levels, while airlines winced at the soaring fuel bills. Convair had built a thoroughbred, but airlines needed a plow horse. Even more baffling was Convair's timing. By 1960, Boeing and Douglas had already saturated the market with the 707 and DC-8, which offered flexible configurations for both passengers and cargo. Convair, meanwhile, doubled down on speed as its sole selling point. The 990, launched in 1961, was marketed as the fastest jet in the skies, but its minor improvements did little to address the core flaws of the 880. Airlines weren't impressed. TWA, the 990's largest customer, openly criticized its failure to meet promised speed and range targets. Convair's engineers had fallen into a trap familiar to dreamers. They built the plane they wanted, not the plane the market needed. While Boeing and Douglas focused on practicality, designing jets that balanced speed, range, and economy, Convair chased a niche that didn't exist. The 880 and 990 were technological triumphs, but they were also relics of a bygone era, when raw speed could still outshine efficiency. In the jet age, that era was already over. Convair's dream of jet-age glory quickly collided with the harsh realities of aerospace engineering. The 880 and 990 weren't just flawed by design, they were plagued by a cascade of technical failures, budget overruns, and corporate infighting that turned their development into a cautionary tale of ambition outpacing execution. The first cracks appeared in the 880's engines. While the General Electric CJ805 turbojets were powerful, they were also temperamental. Designed for military fighters, they struggled to adapt to the demands of commercial aviation. Test flights revealed alarming issues: engines overheated, turbine blades cracked under stress, and the deafening noise levels made cabin crew communication nearly impossible. Convair's engineers scrambled to retrofit the engines with noise suppressors, but these modifications sapped performance, undermining the very speed the aircraft was meant to showcase. The 990, meant to salvage Convair's reputation, fared even worse. Its signature anti-shock body's wing-mounted bulges designed to reduce drag caused unexpected turbulence and overheating. During test flights, pilots reported violent buffeting at high speeds, forcing Convair to ground the fleet and redesign the wings. The fix? Adding even more drag-reducing bulges, which ironically increased the aircraft's weight and negated its speed gains. The 990, marketed as the fastest airliner in the world, now struggled to match its own promised performance. Financially, the project spiraled out of control. Development costs ballooned to $200 million. Over $2 billion today, pushing Convair's parent company, General Dynamics, to the brink of bankruptcy. Desperate to recoup losses, Convair slashed the 880's price tag, selling jets at a loss just to secure orders. But the damage was done. Airlines grew wary of Convair's reliability, and delays piled up. The 880 entered service 2 years behind schedule, by which time Boeing and Douglas had already cemented their dominance. By the early 1960s, the verdict was in: airlines wanted nothing to do with the Convair 880 and 990. While Boeing and Douglas celebrated record sales, Convair's jets languished on the tarmac, dismissed as expensive novelties. In total, only 102 Convair jets were ever sold, 65 of the 880 and 37 of the 990, compared to over 1,000 Boeing 707s. The reasons were clear: they were too niche, too costly, and too late. Airlines had no use for a jet that prioritized speed over profitability. The 880's fuel-guzzling engines made it 30% more expensive to operate than the 707, a deal-breaker for carriers already squeezed by thin profit margins. Its narrow cabin, seating just 110 passengers, paled next to the 707's 140-seat capacity. As one Pan Am executive quipped, "Speed doesn't pay the bills. Passengers do." Even TWA, the 990's biggest customer, admitted the jet was a financial millstone, retiring its fleet after just 5 years. Convair's marketing team scrambled to rebrand the jets as luxury liners for elite travelers. They touted plush seating, gourmet meals, and whisper-quiet cabins, a dubious claim, given the engine's deafening roar. In a last-ditch publicity stunt, Elvis Presley bought a used 880 in 1975, dubbing it the Lisa Marie after his daughter. But while the King's jet became a rock-and-roll icon, it did little to revive Convair's fortunes. Airlines weren't looking for glitz, they needed reliability and ROI. The final blow came from Convair's own hubris. The company had assumed airlines would pay a premium for speed, but by 1962, the novelty of jet travel had worn off. Passengers cared more about ticket prices than shaving an hour off a transcontinental flight. Meanwhile, Boeing and Douglas flooded the market with cheaper, more efficient jets, leaving Convair's jet as relics of a fading dream. In the end, they became symbols of corporate overreach. Convair had bet its future on a market that didn't exist, and lost. By 1965, production lines fell silent, and General Dynamics wrote off $425 million in losses, the equivalent of $4 billion today. The fastest jets in the sky had run out of runway. By 1963, the 990's fate was sealed. Only 37 were ever sold. Airlines like Swiss Air and Northeast Airways retired theirs within a decade, frustrated by high costs and mechanical headaches. Convair, meanwhile, spiraled into financial ruin. The 990 wasn't just a failed jet, it was a tombstone for Convair's commercial aviation ambitions. After airlines abandoned them, many units were reborn as cargo haulers. Their speed and sturdy airframes made them ideal for freight companies like Trans-International Airlines, which used them to shuttle everything from machinery to perishables across continents. Others found niche roles. NASA converted a 990 into a flying laboratory, using it to test satellite tracking systems and airborne telescopes. The military repurposed a handful as radar calibration aircraft, their sleek profiles darting through the skies to train ground crews. By the 1980s, rising fuel costs and stricter noise regulations grounded the remaining fleet. Many were scrapped in the Mojave Desert, their aluminum skeletons baking under the California sun. Have you ever spotted this plane in a museum? Or maybe even flown on one back in the day? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear your stories. Don't forget to hit the bell icon so you never miss a video about the jets that made history and the ones that almost broke it. Thanks for watching.